Sharon and Johns, and we are here to focus on Black history and to get Black information out to our young people and to our people in general. And today we're going to talk about Black History Month and Morgan Freeman. And we're also going to talk about the man in the White House that supposedly is leading us, but that's another story. So we're going to start off with this story, Black History Month and Morgan Freeman. This is the 100th year of the anniversary of Black History Month. And Morgan Freeman came out with some comments, and these are comments that he came out before with it. And of course, right-wing media and conservatives always want to focus on this because it's a Black man saying these things, and it gives them justification to continue their racism, and continue their bigotry, continue their mistreatment of Black people, and condoning the systemic racial system and all of the other things that are going on. And so Morgan Freeman, he did an interview, of course, way back with 60 Minutes. I believe it was in 2004, but he also recently made some statements in a interview. And basically he said this. He says, Black history disgusts him. And he says, quote, "You're going to relegate my history to a month." Okay? And he made a comment about it makes his teeth itch, which I don't know how your teeth can itch, but that's another story. And he said that Black history is American history and that there is no white history. And so he says that he called Black History Month an insult. And he said that they had given us just the shortest month of the year. So, first of all, I liked Morgan Freeman as an actor. I grew up on him with the Electric Company, made great movies, like White House Down, or whatever that movie was, where he became president.
Yes.
The Lean on Me, of course, was an excellent movie. And then, of course, there are some others. I guess Shimshaw Redemption.
Yeah.
I
Shane
never saw
Redemption.
that one. Maybe we have to look
Yes.
at that sometime. So I never
I
saw, but
saw
here's
it.
some other ones that he did. So he's an accomplished actor. I won't take anything away from him on that. What I will say is I disagree with him on this. To me, it comes across as ignorance, okay? Because I would say, Mr. Freeman, you need to learn your history, number one. Black History Month was not given to us. And just a quick overview, Black History was really created by a man by the name of Carter G. Woodson.
Yes.
I believe a teacher had told him that Negroes had no history, which really upset him. And so he set out to prove that, yes, we do have a history. So he dedicated his life to going back and researching Black history at that time. And he was the founder of Black history, and he wanted to make sure that Black history was not erased and that it was to be taught. So it started out as a week-long celebration, and there was two other people that were with him. And then they had it in the middle of February. That week was the middle of February because it coincided with Abraham Lincoln's birthday, who we realize now that's, as someone said, problematic,
Yes.
but also for Frederick Douglass' birthday. So it was the middle of the month that they celebrated that for once, a week-long celebration of Black history. And then it wasn't until President Gerald R. Ford took it up and they said, we want to extend it to a month. And this was after Carter G. Woodson had passed. And they came and said that we want it to be a month long.
Mm-hmm.
And so Somebody said, what are you talking about?
Yes.
Right now, we're talking about Black History Month and the comments that Morgan Freeman made. Okay, and welcome to the show. And so what they did was they decided that they was going to push for a Black History Month instead of the 1 week. And as a result of that, President Ford signed into law and made the executive order that February would be Black History Month.
Yes.
Now, as far as it being the shortest month of the year, I would say that we could advocate to have it changed to January.
That's true.
And coinciding with Martin Luther King's birthday. And I would say that with these elections coming up and Black people wanting somebody to do something, and if the Democratic Party wants our vote, that would be one of the two main things I would demand.
Yes.
One being reparations, and two, changing that to, well, Black History Month to January. But I would go farther than that because it would go in my comment. Black history should be taught, should be celebrated year round.
Yes, it should.
Now, with Morgan Freeman saying that Black history is American history, the problem with that is that American history is not teaching Black history.
That's right.
When I was growing up, I did not hear about certain Black history items that I learn and know about now. They didn't teach about the Tulsa Wall Street massacre. They didn't teach about Rosewood. They really didn't teach about Emmett Till. They taught about Martin Luther King a little bit because we did have to do things with Martin Luther King, but they never went in depth. They didn't talk about the bus strike, the Montgomery bus strike by Rosa Parks. So they didn't really teach Black history. They didn't teach the truth. They did with the Bible, they whitewashed it. Because I'm thinking Abraham Lincoln was this great hero, and come to do some digging and finding out Abraham Lincoln basically was a racist too.
Yes.
He didn't care about slavery. He made the comment that his main goal was to save the Union, to save his legacy. And he said, if I can do that by freeing the slaves, I would. If I could do it without freeing them, I would. And he only freed the slaves in 1863 with the Emancipation Proclamation because he was losing the war and he was trying to get British support, and he was afraid that there would be foreign support for the southern states, but he knew that Britain and other countries did not approve of slavery, so he did that Emancipation Proclamation to show them that he too would get rid of slavery, so it helped them to get help from foreign entities. You didn't realize that after the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln, had he lived, had a plan to ship us out. He was going to ship all the Negroes to Jamaica and to Haiti.
Yes.
And that was to settle them there. So he didn't want them here either. So, but that wasn't taught in American history. It wasn't taught in American history that our founding fathers had slaves. It wasn't taught the history of Thomas Jefferson having all the Black mistresses and children from Black slaves. That was not taught. So if American history is Black history, is American history, why isn't that taught? That's why we needed to have a Black History Month, because we have to be able to share with our young people, especially our young Black people, and Black men in particular, who I'm surprised during the last year and a half, 2 years, to realize that they really don't know their Black history like they should. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this person in office now. 3 million people wouldn't have voted for him, and 2 million people wouldn't have sat out if they knew the actual history of our Black people here in America. So we have the Black history for that. Then Morgan Freeman went on to say that we should quit talking about racism. Now, Morgan Freeman grew up in Mississippi and grew up in the Jim Crow South.
Yes.
And he was fortunate to make it. So, and I said it before, just because a few of Black people make it and are successful does not mean that there is not systemic racism. It doesn't erase the fact that it exists. It doesn't
That is
erase the
right.
fact that
That's
racism exists in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, Morgan Freeman says, quit talking about it. Well, my question to Mr. Freeman is, if we quit talking about it, how are we going to get a solution to it? You need to provide us a solution because you acknowledge that there is racism because you did offer to pay to desegregate your prom that they refused to do, which should have told you then that there is racism in this country. You
Yes.
offered them a good sum of money, I assume, since you was a successful actor. And they said, no, we're not even going to take a good sum of money because we don't want to be associated with black people. So you can't say or deny that there is no racism, as we have some puppet black MAGA politicians and entertainers and black imposters say there's no racism. Yes, there is racism, but you say don't. You're not saying there isn't any racism. You're saying we should quit talking about it. So my question is, if we quit talking about it, how do we provide a solution for it? We need to ask him to provide a solution. Don't just make a
Yes,
comment
that's
like
right.
that. Provide a solution for us. Tell us what we're to do. We'll quit talking about it. So tell us how do we solve it. All right?
My
Sharon?
question is what you just brought out and what Morgan Freeman, the statement that he made, saying that we need to quit talking about racism. And I believe in that same, either that one or another show, when he was bringing out this same statement, he was telling the overall host of the show that the way to erase racism is you stop calling me a black man and I'll stop calling you a white man. And now that's a quote from Morgan Freeman about black history. My thing is this. Oh, I'm sorry, about racism, yes, in America. That does not solve the problem by people stop calling one another what we truly are. I'm a black woman. My husband is a black man. We have our counterparts, our white family as well, and so that doesn't erase the fact that racism exists in this country. It's been here all the time from the beginning of the conception of America. Racism has always been here, and so it hasn't been erased. Nobody else of any other culture has stopped talking about the things that they have endured and experienced. For instance, I'll give you one, and that is the Holocaust. I mean, you hear more about the Holocaust that happened in, I believe it was Nazi Germany, than you do anything year round. They have never stopped talking about the Holocaust. There are other things that they don't stop talking about, and that is the attack on Pearl Harbor. The different things that happen in history, they still make movies about, they still talk openly about, but then when it comes to black people and what we've endured, what we've gone through, what our ancestors have gone through, they want us to have a hush hush type of spirit about our true black history. And so I would say right now that it is not the time to be quiet. It is not the time to hush hush. It is not the time to be pushed into a corner. If ever we needed to talk about black history and racism, which is what we're dealing with, the time is now. We need to sit down. We need to teach our children, like my husband brought out earlier. You know, these things they weren't taught to us in school when it came to our history, our true history. When it comes to black history, we were taught basically what they wanted to teach us and what they felt like was best for us to know. I've lived in a town, it was called Holland, and living in that town, it was predominantly all Caucasian people, all white people. Me and my children, I think we were there was a handful of black people that lived there. So with them going to basically all white schools, Caucasian schools, they didn't teach any history. And when I went to them to ask them about our black history, if they would start teaching that in school so our kids could learn the truth about their own culture and their own race, they said they were not ready for it. And so these are the things that we face as Black people here in America, and not just here. We have our people that's going through in other countries as well, concerning their skin color, concerning the fact that our counterparts, our white race, European race, do not want them in the countries that they're living in. One of them is Europe, England, these different places. And so it's kind of a sad state of affairs that Morgan Freeman could make such a statement like that, when we should really be proud of who we are. We should be proud of where God has brought our people from. We should be proud of the many obstacles that we have overcome in life, in this life, because of the persecution against our skin color. And so we need to teach our children as much as we can concerning their own history, about Black history and who they are. And we need to teach them how to be proud of who they are, not to feel bad if they're called out of their name, not to feel bad. Another example I have for you is that we were brought up, me and my family, in an all Black city. I mean, pretty much Black city. There were whites there as well. And then my stepfather at the time, moved us to an all white town. In that town, we had crosses burnt on our lawn. And this was not 30 or 40 or 50 years ago. This is when I was in the 9th grade. So we had crosses burned on our lawn. We had Caucasian people coming on our property and telling us to get out of town, or they were going to run us out of town. And being older now, I still have that fresh in my mind of how we were treated when we went to school, to an all-white school, how we were told, we were called the N-word, like it was just, just a simple, easy thing to do, to call us out of our names. And yes, we had to stand up for ourselves. Yes, we fought. No, we did not run off our property. My dad, he was from the Deep South, and so he was not going to allow anybody. He had bought 10 acres of land, and so we built on that land. And it was beautiful to be able to stand there and know that my mom, my dad taught us to stand for what is right, stand for what is true. And so this is why we are coming to you, our Black people, to tell you that we are living in a time right now. We're going through a storm with this president in office. And this is the time to take a stand. This is a time to choose your side. This is a time to speak out and to stand up for what is right and what is true. And do not be backed down by anybody. Mm-hmm. Do not fear. Do not cower. Stand up for truth, stand up for justice, and stand up for what is right. We have a right in this country, and I will get to some of those things later on. Well, I'm going to turn it back over to my husband. But this is the time for us as Black people to come out of the cracks, come out of the crevices, come out of the wall, behind the four walls, and stand up for what you know is true and right. And most of all, don't just stand up, but you got to get out and vote. You got to put your vote in 2026 in order for us to gain our rights back, in order for us to get back what the enemy is trying to steal. And I say it's the enemy that's using this individual and these people that are over him to take away what we fought so hard to get. And I refuse to sit down as a grandma. I refuse to sit down as a mother. We refuse to sit down in our community without lifting our voices up, without standing up, speaking out, and even getting out there if we have to in the trenches. So join us in that. Stand up for what you truly believe in. Be strong. I love what the Bible says about Joshua. The Lord told Joshua to be strong and of good courage. Our Black people, we got to be strong. We got to stand up. And we got to come together. So back to my husband.
So I want to read this. It says, a nation does not fail when it is attacked from the outside. It falls down when it forgets what it owes to one another. History teaches us that civilizations do not collapse in moments of noise, but in seasons of moral drift, yes. When conscience grows tired, when truth becomes negotiable, and when fear is allowed to speak louder than wisdom. So that came from Dr. Martin Luther King. So my response, as I said to Mr. Freeman, if you have a solution for us to get our Black history taught all year round, and we should be pushing that and be taught all year round, we are seeing that they are taking away books in schools. They're taking away Black history. They're erasing Black history. They are erasing the accomplishment of Black
Yes.
people, the right and Republicans and conservatives, and of course this president and the press secretary comes out every day and lies to you. And because you cannot believe anything they say, and one of the things they say is that critical race theory is being taught in elementary, junior, and senior high school, and that is not true.
That's right.
Critical race theory is taught in college. It's a college course. But they don't want us to teach about the truth of slavery, of Jim Crow, of 1619, that the original slave trade and how this country was built on the original sin of slavery. They don't want to talk about that. But we need to talk about it. We need to get our young people to learn about it. And Black history is really one means of getting our young people and our children to recognize Black history. And like I said, I said that we need to get it for a month, but let me change that. We need to get it for the whole year.
That's right.
We need to have it for the whole year. And why is it that Black people are the only ones that complain about Black people? We have a Asian month. I don't hear no Asians getting up and saying we shouldn't have an Asian month. We have a Latino month. We have an Italian month. I don't hear nobody from the Latino community or the Italian community saying we shouldn't have that. We have a Women's Month coming up in March. I don't hear no women coming on and saying we shouldn't have a Women's History Month. We have an LGBTQ month, which I, of course, don't agree with that lifestyle. I love the people. I preach the truth of the gospel to them.
Yes.
But I don't hear no LGBT person coming up saying, oh, we don't need to have a month, a Pride Month. But Black people are the only one that come up and say, well, we don't really need that. We need to wake up.
Yes,
we need to quit being the puppets. We need to quit being the Sambos.
Yes.
And start being more Uncle Toms. And learn what those terms are. A lot of people confuse the Uncle Toms. And the Uncle Toms were the ones that stood up for what was right and fought against slavery. The Zambos were the ones that were like the one in Django that Samuel Harrison played. Those were the Sambos that sucked up to the masters and cuddled up to the masters. Malcolm X called them the house Negroes. But they were the Sambos. The field Negroes were the Uncle Tom. So we need to rise up and we need to learn that.
Yeah, it was Samuel Jackson.
What did I say?
Harrison. You said Harrison. It was Samuel Jackson that played that part in.
Oh, Samuel Jackson. Okay, yeah, Samuel Jackson. I'm sorry. And he played in Uncle Tom's Cabin too. So my thing is, and a lot of people didn't know that because the white man had put out Uncle Tom, you're Uncle Tom. We need to learn our history. We need to learn the difference.
Yes, come on.
Okay, so, all right. So that's our take on that. We're going to switch to another subject now. And we're going to say there was a story that people are coming out with about the unemployment, especially the unemployment of Black here in America. And we know that the man in office, when he took office last January, he signed an executive order to disband the Equal Employment Opportunity Act in the federal level.
Yes.
And of course, you know, they made sweeping layoffs, and most of those layoffs affected Black people and really disproportionately Black women.
Yes.
So on January 21st, 2025, Then Donald Trump signed an executive order ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunities that revoked Executive Order 11246. Executive 11246 was originally signed by Lyndon Johnson in 1965 and it was a foundational 60-year measure that required federal contractors and subcontractors to take affirmative action to ensure equal employment opportunities without regard to race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientations, gender identity, or national origin. So this order that President Trump did took away that. And here's basically what it means. If you're the federal government, okay, and you're a contractor going to the federal government wanting to do a job for the federal government to get a contract, you had to abide by the Civil Rights Act.
That's right.
But this executive order that President Johnson put in was like a cover. It said that if you are contracted by the federal government, you cannot discriminate. That means no separate restrooms, no separate cafeterias, no separate anything. You cannot discriminate if you're going to be contracting with the federal government. If you are found to have discriminated against someone, especially people of color, then your contract was to be immediately terminated, and the people that were discriminated against was to get immediate retribution.
Yes.
Now that President Donald Trump has signed that executive order to get rid of Johnson's executive order, it's still the Civil Rights Act is involved, but it makes it harder now for people who feel that they are being and know that they are being discriminated against to get restitution. So they would now, instead of the contract being immediately voided, they would get to keep the contract, but those who they felt had been discriminated would have to file a lawsuit. And it could take a lot of money and a lot of years to get retribution. Meanwhile, the contractor is still getting paid by the federal government. So that's what this order basically did.
Yes.
And now we are seeing that in a way they are not hiring black people in the federal government. It is a loyalist system. You have to be a MAGA supporter or a Donald Trump supporter in order to get a job in the federal government. A great example of that is the ICE.
Yes.
You know, a lot of the January 6th rioters work with ICE, from what I hear, allegedly. So that's what I'm hearing, because they were loyal to Donald Trump. And so now black people, instead of being judged by the context of the education of their experience, now you have to be a supporter. And of course, you know, this administration and the people in it do not support black people. That's why you see over 350,000 black women since Donald Trump has took office are now unemployed.
That's right.
So he has put that in the federal government, and just recently he has put a suit against Nike because he is saying that DEI discriminates against white people, white men to be exact. So now not only is he unemploying black people, especially black women, now he is pressuring businesses to keep from hiring black people.
Yes.
So that's why the unemployment rate for black people have gone up since he has taken office. And I'll get that information. I'm going to turn it over to my wife for further comment on this situation.
Basically, what I have to say is that, like as in the past, there's always been an attack out on black people, African American people. 50 years ago, we had the same thing going on, where we were persecuted and attacked because of the color of our skin. Our black people had to take the lesser paying jobs and whatnot have you. And so here we are back at point A, I should say, with all of our civil liberties and our equal rights and our civil rights being attacked under this administration and under this president, against black people. And so it is time for us to rise up. It is time for us to come together. It is time for us to brainstorm and put our heads together. It's time for us to think outside of the box as to how we are going to make it through these troubling times that we are living in. Like my husband just brought out, the unemployment rate for black people is off the charts since President Trump has been in office. And it's steady going lower and lower. It's getting very hard out here for our young people to find jobs, to be able to sustain themselves, to be able to provide for themselves, and not just our young people. For black people in general, it's getting hard to find jobs out here to be able to work and take care of ourselves. And so this is where we have to start thinking, like I said, outside of the box to be able to survive the storm that we are going through right now. I do have some things that I will share after we are done going over the rest of the information. And it is a type of a counterattack plan as to how we can survive and how we can make it through this storm. And so I'll share that with you in just a little bit. But yes, Trump has set this law into order. And at first, like my husband said, it was meant to just be really much focused on federal employees. But when somebody starts pulling civil rights in the rights that we have in this country, there's going to be a trickle down effect. And so it's not just affecting federal employees. Now it has gotten to what do we call the working sector out here, the private sector out here, because a lot of our people are not able to find the jobs that they need to take care and provide for their families and their children. And this really hurts black women, because black women, most of us are single mothers, single parents in a one-parent household trying to provide for our children. And so now it's time for us to think, like I said, outside of the box, put our heads together and come up with some ways that we can survive this storm that we are going through. It's no different from what our ancestors went through back in the day. They knew how to come together. They knew how to survive what they were going to at any cost. And so I'm going to turn it back to my husband, and then we'll talk later about the counterattack plan.
So we're looking at the chilling effect on diversity initiatives. The executive order is aimed to ban DEI and initiatives that are considered illegal or discriminatory by the administration, causing many companies to pause or dismantle programs designed to recruit or retain black professionals. The experts predict that these changes could lead to reduced economic mobility for black workers, with data from early 2025 already showing a rise in black unemployment and a decline in the labor workforce. We look at this since 2024, the black unemployment rate was 5.6 to 6.2%. And by mid 2025, black employment rate rose to 7.28%.
Yes.
And the latest, August, September, saw the black unemployment rate around 7.3 to 8%, significantly higher than early years. Now, the recent news says that in November, the black unemployment rate was 8.3%.
Wow.
So it's continued going higher, but of course, they're not going to come out and tell you that. That's why we have to have programs like this to let you know exactly what is going on in the people. And it's not just black, it's hitting black people hard, but it's hitting all Americans, poor Americans, white, black, Latino. Only the upper 1% are progressing in this administration, because that's what they've always been about. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and go to the counterattack plan that Sharon has for us.
The counterattack plan that my husband and I kind of put our heads together on, and this is just only 7 things, but I'm sure there's more that we can come up with. It's a 7-step thing that we can do. The first thing in the counterattack plan to be able to survive the times in which we are living in is to put your trust in God and to pray. Put your trust in God and to pray. That should be first and foremost in all of our lives. We need to turn to God because He is our help. He is our strength. He is our provider. He is our keeper. He is our deliverer. He is our healer. Whatever we need, we can find in the Lord Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. So that's the first thing that we need to do. Secondly, we need to unify. We need to organize as a people. It's time to stop thinking about me, myself, and I. We don't have time. This is not the time in the hour or the day to think about, well, it's just about me and my family. No, because everything that's happening right now under this administration and under this president is affecting all of us. And we should be our neighbor's keeper. And I'm not saying allow any and everybody to come into your circle, but it's time to share our resources, to share our information, and to look out for your circle of friends and neighbors. That's another way. Share resources, share good information. If you know somewhere that's giving out food and you know your neighbor is short on food, let your neighbor know that so they can go and get food. Okay. If you have good information that you know about of any kind or good resources yourself, share what you have with somebody else. Make a circle of friends. Bring your family in closer. Let your family know that in order to survive this, we have to work together. We got to put our heads together. Okay. Number 4 is to store food and necessities like water, beans, rice, eggs, powdered milk, canned goods, meats, flashlight, a radio, batteries, medicines, and a first aid kit. So store food and necessities that you are going to need in this storm in which we are going through right now. I don't know about you, but we just got hit with a big snowstorm here. We got about 13 inches of snow, not realizing that was on the horizon. My goodness, thank God that we prepared ahead of time for that. And so we are still in a storm. This storm is against like I said, our civil rights that this administration, this president is trying to tear down. They have enacted the Jim Crow law again in the Deep South. And if you don't know what the Jim Crow laws are, then you can pull that up and read about the Jim Crow laws, how there were certain areas that blacks were not allowed to go in. Blacks had to drink out of their own drinking fountains, use their own bathrooms. Those things are being enacted. Okay. And it's already taken place in the Deep South. So let's store food and necessities so that we have enough to share with somebody else. Okay. It's not about us. It's about survival methods. It's about thinking out of the box. It's about relying one upon another. Okay. Also, I said this before, and this one just means to form family and community support. That means we need to mobilize. We need to mobilize. In other words, we need to have meetings in our communities where we can come together and sit down and brainstorm, come up with different ideas that's going to help us to help one another to get through what we are going through in these times in which we are living in. Number 6 is to know your First Amendment rights as a citizen. Of course, with ICE going around right now, they're not just have been arresting immigrants or illegal immigrants, but they're putting the pressure on Black people as well. Make sure you have your information in your pocket, in your purse, in your wallet. When you're going in and out, take your ID with you. Take your birth certificate with you to prove that you are a citizen of the United States. To know your rights, get in there and get a book. Order you a book on Amazon or something. It costs little, or you can go to the library and read up on your rights as a citizen in this country. And number 7, we need to learn how to stay ahead of what is going on by thinking out of the box. And I did put an example down here. How am I how can I survive this? Okay, so that's just an example. So we need to stay ahead of what's going on by thinking outside of the box. We can't think like we used to think. I think about our parents back in the day when we were growing up. We didn't have much. We were poor, but they used every resource that they had. And they taught us survival skills. If a storm was to hit on tomorrow, if we were to get an ice storm, we knew exactly what we needed and what we needed to do. Okay. And so we got to think outside the box. We got to put our heads together. We got to come together in our communities and share different ideas and share and brainstorm ideas together so that we can help one another to make it through this storm that we are going through. Another thing is too, there are many of us that have money. It's time to have our own grocery stores where we can shop black only if necessary. And it's time to also put information out and make sure our kids are informed as to how they are not to, go in and out the house by themselves. There's a lot of black kids missing in different states and what not have you. And so we need to come together. It's time to sit down at the round table and have some good talk and some good conversation to be able to help one another to get through this storm of racism, this storm of hypocrisy, this storm of biasness, and all the rest is being pushed out of this administration and this president. So I'm going to turn it back to my husband, and I hope these different ways to combat the issues that we are facing today will help each and every one of you if you put them into play. Okay, so here's my husband again, and we just want to say thank you to you guys for coming. Thank you to whoever it was that invited other people to come onto the show. And so I'm going to turn it back to my husband.
So we wanted to tell you about some of the companies that have stopped their DEI program since Donald Trump returned to the presidency in 2025. The tech and finance companies are Google Alphabet, Google-/Alphabet, the Meta platforms, which is Facebook and Instagram, Amazon, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Huntington, and Citigroup banks. These are all that are scaling back or quit DEI formal programs. The retail and consumer brands are, of course, Target, and we know about the boycott of Target.
Yes.
Walmart is involved in that. They phased out several diversity programs. McDonald's and the Pepsi Company, the heavy industry and auto industry, Ford, Harley Davidson, and the media and other sectors is Paramount Global, of course, CBS. And so there are other reported rollbacks such as Boeing, Disney, Bank of America, Amtrak, Lowe's, John Deere, and Tractor Supply Company. So these are companies that have decided that they were going to roll back their DEI initiatives in trying to create equality and a level playing field for all Americans. And so these are things we need to be aware of.
Yes.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about these subjects today. We thank you for joining us. If you like what you see and support us, hit that like and subscribe button, and we will be on live. And we just ask that we don't know when we're going to be on live, and we don't know what subject is going to be, whatever current event, but we ask that you keep an eye out for us, and we ask that you pray for us, that we continue to bring accurate news and to educate our young black men and women and educate all of our people in this day and age that we need it, so that we can be able to come together and live more peaceably. Okay, so until next time, for my lovely wife, Sharon Johns, I'm William Johns, and this is In the Face of Truth, where we cover the topics which have affected black people over the years and still affect us today. And our spin and truth-telling is on black history and current events. And I'm your host, William Johns, along with my wife, Sharon Johns, saying, may God bless you, and we'll see you next time.
Don't forget to vote in November.